Hey folks, welcome back. So today we got a great video. I've been messing around about these airsoft grenades, and I've been doing different tests and running them through, and I think this is going to be a fun one. So these here are the Thunder Bee CO2 powered grenades. They kind of look like those high explosive grenades. If you ever played that game CS, it kind of looks like them. Obviously, they look a lot smaller than in the game, but I think that's more close to the real life size. But anyway, we're going to go into details about them, and we're going to show you how they perform with different um, rounds in there, whether they're plastic BBs or they're paintballs, and even, yeah, you got it, smoke grenades. So that's kind of fun. These are actually really kind of cool, but there's some issues with them, but I think overall they're a good buy. So let me dig into a little bit more about them.
Let's see here. This is the Thunder G, or no, sorry, Thunder B. These are basically just grenades. Uh, they're CO2 powered, and they're obviously disposable. They come with the 12. This is the one with 12. Yeah, this is the one with 12 cartridges, as well as the fuse or the detonator, I like to call them, right? So let's take a look at what's going inside. So each one of these look like this. Now this is just a plastic shell right here. And this is the, well, actually it only comes with one fuse slash detonator right here. And so, not a lot. Oh, there are instructions. There are instructions in here, I think. No, that's not helpful. Okay. Oh, wait. Scan for user manual. I'll probably have to do that in a little bit to figure out what's going on. But it's probably pretty self-explanatory, I would imagine. I can tell here. Each of these are going to be filled with some BBs. Oh yeah, this part here feels pretty high quality. Alright, that's the protective layer on top of that. What I think, and don't worry, we'll pull up the alright, so as you can imagine, the CO2 cartridge would go down there. And then check out these pins. Not sure, this may be a crush washer. I'm not sure. These are some spare pins, I guess. And they would probably just go something. I don't know, we'll figure out how that goes together in a little bit. But it looks kind of cool. Alright, this is as a comparison, here's a stack of quarters right here. $10 worth of quarters right next to it. So they're not, huge, but they're pretty good size, I think. I don't know how large a real high explosive grenade would be in terms of size. If you ever all play that CS game, Counter-Strike, the grenades are like huge, but I don't know how realistic that is. Okay, so that's just a little bit of the intro, product opening. Let me try to figure out how we actually put these together, and then we'll actually do that, and we'll run it both with the standard plastic rounds, and then we'll also try it with paintballs and see how they explode. So stay tuned.
Okay, so here we have the grenade all assembled. There's a dummy CO2 cartridge, or a used one actually, so it's not going to explode or anything like that. But I just want to show you folks how it looks like when it should be completely assembled. I mean, I know it's pretty self-explanatory. This is what a grenade looks like. But that's the safety pin in place. If you were to unscrew it, you pull out the detonator. You can see the CO2 cylinder detonator cartridge, and then the safety pin on top. that's where the hammer is. So when you pull the safety pin, that hammer will flip forward, and after you release the latch, the hammer will flip forward. So there's nothing in the cartridge right now, or sorry, in the shell right now. This is just for demonstration purposes. But don't worry, I'll show you folks how you actually set this up. It's kind of an elaborate procedure. I haven't really found the best way to do it, but because the spring on the hammer is pretty tough, and they kind of have to like finagle it. I think there are probably better ways to do it, but I'll show you what I try to do, and we'll see. Maybe y'all can find out a better way. Okay, so I'm going to pull the pin out now and reset the grenade so we can just demonstrate how we would re-prime basically the detonator. So basically, I'm holding the hammer right now. That hammer is essentially what is released once you pull the safety pin and release the latch. That hammer is going to strike on the strike face of the grenade and essentially puncture the CO2 cartridge and release all the pressure. So to reset the hammer, you have to use basically, you can use anything, but basically you can use a safety punch. There's a hole in there that you can push it back and help get some leverage. Once you pull it back enough, you can use that hammer, or sorry, the latch to hold that hammer down. I'm definitely kind of struggling in this photo right here, or in this video right here, but eventually you can pull it down, and then you'll be able to insert the pin. Now, I definitely recommend one thing before while you're trying to like get the hammer reset. Watch out for that pin right there that punctures the CO2. That's a very sharp thing. So make sure the CO2 outer container is installed first, so you don't puncture yourself, basically. Now, eventually, I was really struggling, and again, this is not the best way. This is the first time me doing it, but eventually, I was able to get the hammer down and have the latch held in place. So now it's holding the hammer down. So now all I gotta do is insert the safety pin into the hole to keep the hammer from falling, basically. And so I'm doing that right here. But I'll show you. I found out a better way to install it that I found out later down the road. So I'll just cut to that clip right now.
But if you'll notice here, these pins are kind of like staggered, so they look like that's thin edge, and then it's folded over. So what you got to do is basically when you insert it with like the thin edge like this, and then once you get it in, when you switch to the other side, you just twist it around basically, and that's how you do it. So instead of just keeping it trying to stick it straight through. So watch this. So have it face up, insert it here, turn it around, insert it, push it, and now notice how it's through the other side, but the bottom part is blocking it, right? So all you do is just turn it, and then you push it through. So very easy way to push the pin through. And I think it was probably designed to go that way. So kind of cool.
All right, enough of the instructions. Let's get to the explosions now. This is the first attempt at running the grenade. I just want to see, how it explodes and, how much, damage it causes, the fuse timing, all that stuff. So this thing has a very short fuse. So literally, this isn't slow-mo, but basically it's literally less than two or less seconds, basically. And so this is me installing it right now. I'm trying to use another iPhone basically to keep time of it, but like I said, it would explode so quickly I couldn't even really get an accurate time. I was that surprised by it. So the manual did say 2 to 4 seconds, but in my experience of all the different tests I've been running, definitely 2. Now I did try to run other experiments where maybe freezing the CO2 cartridge might affect the timing, but it doesn't do it significantly more. All right, let's cut to the first explosion and a series of many more. that was the full explosion. This is now just the sound of the hissing of the remaining CO2 cartridges, the gas in the CO2 cartridge escaping, basically, and that happens with all the explosions.
As you can see, the box pretty much undamaged. I was actually quite surprised how fast that exploded. So you can see this is the shell here. Oops. Warps out like that, perforates right along where the white line is. It's the cylinder core detonator here is still cold. It's actually freezing because that's where the CO2 rushes out. But so that's crazy. Now I wonder how hard it's going to be to change this out now, because part of the plastic shell here, the casing of the grenade, was wrapped around and screwed onto the top right here. But since a lot of it got shredded off, it might be difficult to remove that. So we'll have to see how I'm going to go about and remove the casing of this right now. But that was the first one. So a theory is that I'm going to try to do 2 more of these at room temperature. I'm probably going to just reuse the same BBs because I really don't care about these. I'm going to do 2 more of these at room temperature to give a rough estimate about how fast these fuse quote unquote lasts. And then I have a theory that since when you pull the release pin, the faster the gas expands basically and builds up pressure, the faster it will detonate. So under cold temperatures, if I were to refrigerate or freeze the CO2 cartridges, I think the fuse would last longer. So maybe that would buy us more time, even though it probably reduced the the force of the explosion. But it might buy us some more time because 2 seconds is pretty quick. You have to like chuck that quickly. That's a short fuse. And interesting to note, though, is that this, even though it blew this box right over, it didn't really cause any damages on the inside. So, yeah, that's just some dust right there, particle pieces. Yeah, maybe that part right here might be from a dent, but for or it's possible maybe the blast all was directed down towards the carpet and it didn't catch anything right there. Either way, this initial one didn't seem it was too effective. All right, so now we're going to try to disassemble this grenade so we can reinstall a new shell. Let's see how this is going to work. So hopefully, good thing that the whole thing didn't blow right off, right? Because imagine if this thing was torn right off and there were still pieces underneath that would be very difficult to remove. So I think the best way, and this is the first time I'm doing this, so we'll bear with me here while I try to figure this out. I'm just going to try to unscrew it from the bottom. So it works out pretty nicely, I think, actually. All right. So that's good. Let's just hope that from now on, all the actually, I guess that's not too bad. You can just unscrew the whole lid right off, and you can just pull it off. So hopefully, all the other times you explode it, it won't be too bad to remove. But there you have it, folks. The outer casing of the grenade blows right where it should be. So my guess then is that if, so I thought this whole thing was going to explode, right? Well, actually, no, I didn't really think that, but I didn't remember to think of that. It makes sense that it would blow along these lines, actually. So if that's the case, when we put the grenade down next time, we're going to try to put it down on the side facing where the target is, so that way it will explode through the cardboard. So, and then of course we'll do one on its own, so we'll see how these explode. So, not too bad. All right, let's, still cold. Let's uninstall, remove this, and we'll set this up for another round, and we'll see how it goes. I got the CO2 tanks in the refrigerator or in the freezer cooking right now, or cooling down. So once that's set up for a couple hours, we'll try it again, and we'll see if that delay fuse does anything to it. All right, so let's set up another grenade. Now this is another safety point I want to illustrate here. So I've just reset the hammer down and put the safety pin in. So you'll notice that the see that metallic pin in the middle, or that I guess that's the, I don't know what it's called, but that's a striking surface, right? So as soon as you pull the hammer and release the or pull the pin and release the hammer or the latch, the hammer will slam down on that part right there, that part, and then basically that would knock down a pin down there, which will puncture this CO2 cartridge. So this is a brand new cartridge right here, and so even if so, it's okay to keep it active like this because it won't explode, or sorry, it won't release the gas. So it won't be, the contents won't be under any different pressure. So the gases will remain into this CO2 cartridge right here. So watch what happens. So I put it in right, screw it in. Okay, it's tight, right? But it's not punctured yet. So it's the original seal on the CO2 cartridge is still keeping the CO2 inside the cartridge. That means that if I open it up, it won't it won't explode, because obviously if this thing is punctured and it's filled with gas and you open up, that's very bad, but it's okay. So as long as that pin is in place and it doesn't get hammered down, you'll be okay. So that's one thing to note. Obviously always wear safety goggles, and especially how fast we saw that last one explode, we'll always keep that in mind. Okay, so that's now a live detonator in here, and then we'll fill up a new cartridge. So the first time when I installed the grenade, I didn't put, or the rounds into the shrapnel, I didn't put that many BBs. I only put about like 200, 250. So now I tried about maybe 400 rounds. So it looks a lot more like this now. So it's quite a bit more. And there's still more in there, a little bit more there. So this is how it looks like here. So I think we'll have a bigger, or maybe a better impact. So let's try to fill this up again. Okay. All right. So that's filled there. So let's try to insert this here. Okay. Got ourselves a live grenade right here. Okay. Alright, let's try this again, and we'll put this surface facing the camera so that we can see the explosion come out. And then we'll do the last one of the room temperature CO2 cartridges facing a cardboard box to see how much damage that applies. Alright, this one we're going to pull the pin, and since we're expecting the rounds to fly out along the seam here when it explodes, we'll just lay it down like this and let go, and then see how it explodes. I'm not expecting any damage here. The background is just a little bit, the cardboard box is just there for the background to keep it, the white rounds from exploding, to be more visual. The next one we'll try to make it face the cardboard box so we can see and assess the extent of the damage. But this is just to see how the rounds explode. Alright, and watch how fast this timing is. Pin is pulled. Yeah, that is really quick. That is extremely quick right there.
Alright, this is a third attempt, but this is going to be, again, this is room temperature, and this is going to be more directed at the box to see and assess the damage from the shrapnel. probably tell at this point, this is round number 2, and from a projectile velocity and based on the cardboard backing, even though it's directed towards the box, not a whole lot of damage done there. I was expecting like, completely peppering the background. But and some of it could have been, maybe it's possible that some of the carpet took the blast again, because the grenade did fall over. But for the most part, it's going to be difficult to get some consistent hits with this if you were to use it in a game or something.
Okay, so we've already blown through 3 different grenade casings. Pretty much, all of them were the same type and manufacturer of CO2. They're the Daisy kinds. I know there's Crossman. Sometimes they, I don't know, just to keep things consistent, they're not really that much different. But to keep them all consistent, they're the same temperature. They were done roughly in the same time frame today. And so we kind of saw the fuse, very quick. We'll look at the camera again to see how many seconds they were, but it's really just like less than 2 seconds and explodes. I wish it would really be like 2. The manual said 2 to 4 seconds. I really wish it were more like the 4-second range, because this is just too much. I guess you can argue that maybe you can throw them, and when you throw them, you as soon as you hold the pins, safety pin, and release the latch and throw it. I don't know. It depends on how far you throw it. Because what if you're throwing it in the air and it turns around and blows up in your face? Because the fuse time is very quick. So I guess what you could do to maximize it is to basically hold, once you pull the pin, right, hold down to the fuse or the latch as long as possible, and once you throw it, only when you've thrown it do you release the latch. And I think maybe that might work. But again, it's I don't know. It really, that fuse is just really too quick, at least for me, I think. Now, it is interesting though, because we saw in that last video when they exploded towards the cardboard box, there wasn't a whole lot. It was loud, yes, and it got really messy. But if you notice, the cardboard box was pretty much unscathed, even though the blast face of the grenade was right towards the cardboard box. Yeah, it kind of expanded a little bit towards the bottom, and so the grenade started falling over. But it still, for the most part, blasted towards it. So, it might not be super high FPS. There could have been some angling there, so maybe some of it hit the ground and bounced up, but I wouldn't say these are like the most damaging. So I think for the most part they're fairly safe in terms of like shrapnel spread and everything like that. So I mean, obviously always wear safety goggles, but they're not as dangerous as you would think, which would be kind of interesting because a lot of times in another video, we were talking about the plastic WE Glock magazines and how that could be dangerous, because if that explodes, all these BBs would go flying, and it's just like a lot of folks felt like they were just like a ticking time bomb. How can you have a gas magazine that's plastic, really, from a safety standpoint? So maybe I haven't done a test where we, dropped it and try to see if it would make it explode, but this might serve as kind of an example of how potentially we can model the explosion of a gas magazine based on these. Just some food for thought. All right, so those are the normal ones. So let's try one more at room temperature, but we're going to do something slightly different in this instance. We are going to take those useless paintball rounds that we had a discussion about and fill them up in the, let me get that little thing out of the way. Fill them up. These are all the frozen rounds here. So we're gonna use them for something now. That one probably broke or something like that. All right, here's another. All right, so let's load up another cartridge here, and then we'll run away and we'll try to explode this indoors and see. We'll change the setting a little bit so it's an area where we can clean up. I think it's going to be messy, so we'll find out.
So in this case, you can tell it's a lot more dramatic and it's a lot messier. The paint, just imagine if they were red paintballs, it would have looked pretty bloody. But this is pretty cool. The one thing to know is that the can separated, or the outer casing separated completely from the detonator. And I've noticed that when you have lighter payloads into these shells, they will tear right off. So when you're filling with heavier weight BBs, they will stay together, so it'll be easier to uninstall. But when you're doing something like this, they can just tear right off. Now, this is pretty messy, as you can see. I caught a lot of the backsplash. I am covered in paint. These pants are now ruined. Well, no, not really, but I gotta go wash them. And the walls are pretty disgusting right now. It smells pretty bad too, but that was pretty cool. Now here's a close-up shot of the innards of the paintball. Look, it's kind of messy, right? There's still chunks in there that exploded, and the grime and the grease, the oils, and all that stuff still hanging around in there. So it does produce a very dramatic effect. But next time, I mean, well, it's pretty obvious you would do this outside. But I think we finally found a purpose for those paintball rounds. Now this is where it's problematic. On the left is a tank that exploded with normal payload of BBs, and notice how the neck where the screws are set in, it has not separated completely. So you can still use the majority of the bottle to help unscrew the plastic casing and install a new shell like the one on the right. However, in the case that we just saw below, or when you use a lighter payload, the shell will blow right off. And so the problem is now, if you were to look at the cap of the grenade, notice that the piece of the grenades are still in there. So it becomes very difficult to uninstall that chunk in there because you have no leverage. And basically, it's very difficult. Now you can get rid of it. You kind of have to like tear some of it off, and then use kind of like a sharp object, basically to slowly reverse and unscrew it, like in this video right here. But it is a problem and it is kind of a hassle.
Alright, this cartridge has been pulled out of the freezer just now, so I will now insert this into the detonator and prepare it. So I finally got that neck removed from the detonator, so now I can insert this into a new one, and then hopefully we'll watch to see. I'll spin it back on and watch to see if the time improves in this one or not. We'll see how that goes. Alright. Should last hopefully more than a couple of seconds, so we'll see. Once again, I'll have it facing the blast line, facing the box, so that hopefully we can see some damage, but mainly it's more about the timing in this instance. Alright, hold it down, pull the pin, let it rip. Hold on. Oh wow. Any damage to the box? Oh, okay. Some damage there. There seems to be maybe a slight delay, but I'll have to check the timing again. Whew, that is cold. I don't know. This is pretty intense. All right. Pretty good blast radius of about I want to say it's good. What, like 10 feet blast radius right there. All right, in this last video, this is also a cold CO2 tank straight from the freezer. We are going to try. Didn't really seem to make a huge time impact, but so I don't think freezing it or a temperature change is really going to make a huge difference in terms of the timing of the fuse. What we can do though, for fun, is that we're going to try to drop this into this Quaker's oatmeal container here and see if we can, you know, at least cause some damage here. And when it's empty, we'll drop it in here, pull the fuse, drop it in here, and see if it will explode. We saw some damage. We really want to see some peppering and holes here, not just some tears from like the straight up blast of the grenade shell itself. We want to see some actual, you know, shrapnel damage. So let's see if that happens here. All right, hold on. Hole in the pin. Alright, well, somewhat successful, I guess. Blew out the bottom, sort of. Tore a huge hole in the side, and then a lot of it, you know, I mean, it did fall over, so I kind of wish it was more successful. If it was, you know, upside up or right side up, I think it would have been different. But it definitely contained the blast a lot better, you know, I would imagine there's some safety issues if you're going to hold it, so you make sure you got to throw this quickly, because imagine if it did this to a box of Quaker's oatmeal, what would it do to your hand? Alright. This next one should be an interesting one. Instead of loading it with BBs, actually, I wonder if this could be used as a smoke grenade. So I've actually loaded this with a bunch of baby powder. So I think it's going to get really messy around here. But I think it'd be kind of interesting to watch. I think baking soda might be a better option, actually. We'll just see. So I loaded about up to a quarter of it with baby powder. And so we're going to try it. Let me run it in slow motion so hopefully we can get like a better aim at it, though.
Well, folks, hope you all enjoyed the video. This week was pretty interesting with these grenades. In the end, highly recommend them. They're really fun. I think they're probably better as smoke grenades than they are as, like, you know, shrapnel grenades, or maybe even paint grenades wouldn't be too bad. I think I really recommend them. Just watch that fuse time, regardless whether it's hot or cold temperatures. You really don't have much time. It's really only like 2 seconds maximum. Other than that, great find, not too bad. All right, see y'all next time. Thanks.